Grab your bulletins and open to page 6. As you know, I've been all about the collects here for the last couple weeks, and this one here is a doozy. This one is stuck in my teeth like a popcorn kernel for the last 7 days, so I'm thinking God's saying something. Take a look at that opening prayer. Grant us, Lord, not to be anxious about earthly things, but to love things heavenly, while we are placed among things that are passing away, to hold fast to those things that shall endure. Grant us, Lord, not to be anxious about earthly things. Before I go on, think about your week. I bet you were anxious at some point during this week. Yeah, probably a lot. Now, of those things that you were anxious about this week or the last hour, how many of them would have affected your relationship with God or the church negatively? How many things you were anxious about this week that actually would have affected your relationship with God or his people negatively? 1%? 0%? If this week you said, I'm so anxious that I'm not praying enough, or I'm so anxious that I'm not contributing to the church to the best of my abilities, we need to chat. I need an icon of you somewhere in this room, and we will begin your canonization proceedings. But when you think about it, look at all the stuff in our life that we're anxious about. Little history. This prayer comes from the Leonine Sacramentary. It goes back to about 450. So we've been saying this prayer as a church for a long time. And in the Leonine Sacramentary, this prayer actually was said on the day of the Ascension. Ascension Day, the 40th day after Easter, where Jesus takes the big jet plane back home, right? What was happening in the church at that time on that Ascension Day? Especially in the hearts of the apostles. Huge amounts of anxiety. They were following this guy for 3 years. They watched him 40 days before that be crucified. And then all of a sudden, on the 3rd day, Mary Magdalene comes busting through the upper room to say, he's alive. And then for 40 days, he's showing up in front of them, appearing to them risen, talking to them. Scripture says it all over. Some even doubted. He's showing up right in front of them. And now on this 40th day, he says, all right, I've given you everything that you need. Go out and preach the gospel. I'm heading home. 9 days, the Spirit will come. Go back to Jerusalem. There's huge amounts of anxiety with them. What are we going to do? How's this going to work? Are you really sure you're calling me? Am I really up for this task? Could you imagine what Peter was going through? I got to run this motley group? Really? Change. We never do well with change, do we? Grant us, Lord, not to be anxious about earthly things. Do you ever think about your anxieties about change? I'm not saying anxiety is bad. I think there's negative anxiety, and I think there's good anxiety. What's negative anxiety? Normally when we get confronted with change, or we're confronted with a way that's an earthly thing that we're anxious about, if we deal with it negatively, we're striking out against each other. We're striking out against other people. We're slamming on the horn at people at the traffic light. And then when the full moon happens, look out. Right? We behave badly. Sometimes when change hits us, we just become completely surrounded in fear and don't move. If God asks us to do something, I can't do that. And we become locked in our own fear. That's negative anxiety. But sometimes God sends us anxiety as a gift, if you reflect in the middle of it. Because 9 times out of 10, when you're anxious about something, God is showing you something about yourself that needs changed. And 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with the person that's causing that anxiety in you or the event that's actually doing it. God is holding up a mirror when it comes to anxiety. Because if you look at it, there's something in you that you're fearful about that God doesn't want you to carry anymore. We become so wrapped up in earthly anxieties that we forget about, as the prayer says, things heavenly. And what's things heavenly? Love. The beginning and end to this story is love. Love will always win. God is constantly surrounding you with his love, inside and out. You are loved just as any parent in this room totally loves their children. And he's working out good in you. Newsflash, you're not in control. You don't need CNN to tell you that at the bottom of her ticker tape. You are not in control. And also, the role of Messiah has been fulfilled, and it isn't you. But the things heavenly are that he loves us so much, he's changing us from the inside if we let him. Pray this prayer every day this week. Pray this prayer every day this week. And really look at the ways in your life where you're anxious about earthly things. And ask yourself, does this really matter? Is this really reflecting my relationship with God and his church? And then when the anxiety comes, ask yourself the question, why? Why am I scared? What is God wanting to change about me? And quit pointing at other people, but look internally. Love things heavenly, because everything around you is going to pass away. And the only thing that's going to matter in the end is how much you love him and how much you love each other. That's it. That's things heavenly. If you notice in Scripture, one of the most popular phrases that's used over and over and over and over and over again is be not afraid. God constantly tells us, don't be afraid. I'm God, I'm in charge, and you're loved. Get over yourself. Quit being anxious about earthly things. Love things heavenly. I'm surrounding you with love and wanting you to transform to be the person I have called you to be. So grant us, Lord, not to be anxious about earthly things, but to love things heavenly. And now, while we are placed among things that are passing away, to hold fast to those that endure. And what endures? Love.